The man came home from work carrying takeout. He found his daughter watching a cooking show. Then the girl told her father to write a letter to mom and ask mom to cook that meal for them. Hearing that, the man couldn't hold it in anymore. He picked up his daughter and ran outside. All he wanted in that moment was to let his daughter eat a proper meal, because his wife was no longer with them. Kouhei was a math teacher. After his wife passed away, he raised his daughter Tsumugi alone. Since he didn't know how to cook, he could only buy her takeout every day. Every morning, Kouhei made a bento for his daughter. He took frozen food out of the fridge, heated it in the microwave, and then put it into her lunchbox. And that was the lunch he prepared for her. Tsumugi noticed her pink shirt was missing. She wanted her dad to help her find it. But when Kouhei looked at the pile of unwashed clothes, he collapsed to the floor. Luckily, Tsumugi was understanding and chose another outfit. Then he helped her brush her teeth and helped her get dressed. Every day, before they left home, they would say goodbye to his wife's photo. After dropping Tsumugi off at school, Kouhei went to work. His co-workers cared about him a lot. They knew his wife had passed away. They often asked if he'd been eating properly. Seeing that he seemed okay, they felt relieved. But when it came to co-workers' dinner gatherings, Kouhei couldn't join because he needed to take care of his daughter. After work, Kouhei once again bought takeout for Tsumugi. After eating, she would obediently go back to her room and sleep. The next morning, Tsumugi told Kouhei she wanted to see the cherry blossoms. Kouhei told her she needed to help clean the room first, and they could go once they were done. Tsumugi happily agreed. Even though she didn't help much with the cleaning, she still obediently stayed by her dad's side. Kouhei took Tsumugi to the park. The trees were full of cherry blossoms. Laughter filled the air. Then they saw a girl sitting alone under a tree, eating her food in big bites, her eyes full of tears. Tsumugi went up to check on her. The girl told them she was crying because the food tasted so good. When Tsumugi heard her say it was delicious, she stared at the lunchbox drooling. Unfortunately, the food was already finished, so the girl handed Kouhei a card from her family's restaurant. The restaurant on the card belonged to her family. Kouhei walked home carrying Tsumugi. They stopped in front of a bento shop, but Tsumugi didn't want to eat it. Still, she behaved and went into the shop with her dad. Back home, Kouhei asked Tsumugi if the bento tasted good. Tsumugi said it was just okay. The next day, when Kouhei came home, he found his daughter completely absorbed in another cooking show. Tsumugi told him again to write a letter to mom, so mom could cook for them. Hearing that, Kouhei couldn't hold back anymore. He picked Tsumugi up and ran out the door, carrying Tsumugi on his back. Kouhei went to the restaurant from the card. All he wanted was to let his daughter have a real home-cooked meal. Kouhei entered the restaurant with his daughter, and they were greeted by the same girl who had given them the card. Kouhei told him the dishes at the restaurant were usually cooked by her mother, but today, her mother wasn't there. Just as Kouhei was about to leave and go somewhere else, Kouhei brought out a clay pot and said she could cook too. Hearing that, Tsumugi happily sat down. Kouhei washed the rice in a bowl. After rinsing it, she went to the kitchen. Kouhei got up to use the restroom. By accident, he overheard Kouhei calling her mother to ask how to make clay pot rice. When he returned, Kouhei poured water into the pot, then used her index finger to measure the water level. She patiently waited for the rice to absorb the water. After a while, Kouhei added sake to the pot. Kouhei worried his daughter shouldn't eat it. Kouhei told him the alcohol would evaporate during cooking. During their conversation, Kouhei learned that this girl was actually a student at their school, and he was her assistant homeroom teacher. Meanwhile, Tsumugi, who had been drawing quietly, had fallen asleep. As the aroma of the rice filled the room, Kouhei couldn't help thinking of his wife and how she used to cook. His thoughts were suddenly interrupted by the timer. The clay pot rice was finally ready. Kouhei walked to the pot and lifted the lid. She served a bowl for Kouhei, then a bowl for Tsumugi, and finally took a bite herself. In her heart, she thought she was amazing. Tsumugi took a bite too and told her dad it was delicious. Seeing how happy his daughter looked while eating, Kouhei's eyes filled with tears. Part of it was guilt, feeling like he hadn't taken good enough care of her. The other part was because it had been so long since he'd eaten together with his daughter. When you eat alone, even the tastiest food becomes bland, but when everyone eats together, even a bowl of plain porridge feels warm and delicious. Kouhei invited Kouhei and Tsumugi to come eat together again, but Kouhei refused. He felt that doing so would only trouble Kouhei, but Tsumugi was very happy, so she teamed up with Kouhei to act cute, hoping he would agree. But this trick didn't work on Kouhei at all. The next morning, Tsumugi was eating the breakfast her dad made. Kouhei asked her if it tasted good. Tsumugi answered that it was just okay. Kouhei then put the freshly pan-fried sausages into her bento box. Tsumugi looked at the slightly burnt sausages and was thrilled because it was the first time her dad ever cooked for her. Then Kouhei added the freshly cooked rice into the bento box. When Tsumugi looked at the rice, she thought of big sister Kotori. She then told her dad she wanted to go eat at Kotori's place again, but Kouhei didn't respond. After arriving at school, he asked the department head about Kotori. The department head told him that Kotori's parents divorced when she was little. Her mother ran the restaurant, while also working as a culinary researcher. After work that day, Tsumugi showed her dad a picture she drew at school. In it were herself, her dad, and Kotori. Kouhei looked at his daughter, so she liked Kotori's restaurant that much. But Tsumugi explained that dad seemed especially happy when they were there, and the food tasted especially good, so she loved it a lot. The next day, Kouhei wanted to fulfill his daughter's wish. He found Kotori eating breakfast outside near a window. He wanted to meet her mother to discuss cooking together. Hearing that, Kotori was thrilled. She quickly said her mother would be free that evening and told Kouhei to bring Tsumugi with him. After school, Kouhei picked up his daughter and went straight to the restaurant. But the moment he opened the door, Kotori was kneeling awkwardly on a stool. She apologized because her mother had to step out for something. Seeing that Kotori's mother wasn't there, Kouhei turned to leave, but Kotori asked if they could stay and eat together instead. Kouhei was about to refuse, but Tsumugi had already run straight to the dining table. There was an apron on the table. Seeing how much Tsumugi liked it, Kotori helped her put it on. Then Tsumugi asked what they were going to cook. Kotori told her they were making hamburger steak. Tsumugi was overjoyed, seeing how excited his daughter was. Kouhei agreed to stay. Kotori took out the recipe her mother left behind. There were even little drawings on it. Kotori had already prepared the rice. Next was making the pork miso soup. All they needed to do was chop some vegetables. Kotori assigned the chopping job to Kouhei. Kouhei picked up the knife and chopped the daikon with full force. The daikon flew across the room. Since Kouhei didn't know how to cook, he chopped painfully slowly, so he asked Kotori for help and handed the knife to her. But Kotori seemed terrified of the kitchen knife. Only then did Kouhei realize she actually wanted someone to help her with the cutting. Kotori told Kouhei she was scared of knives, and that was why she wanted to cook together with him. She felt like she was taking advantage of him and apologized sincerely. Kouhei didn't say anything. He simply put down the knife, picked up the konnyaku, and tore it apart with his hands. Tsumugi wanted to help too, so Kouhei handed her a piece. Then Kouhei invited Kotori to tear the konnyaku with them. Seeing that Kouhei wasn't upset at all, Kotori finally relaxed. Kouhei said to Kotori that he was indeed troubled, that as a single parent, he might not be able to give his daughter good meals, and Kotori didn't want the restaurant to shut down either. Now they had a shared goal, to make delicious food for Tsumugi. Meanwhile, Tsumugi dropped her crayon. When she reached down to pick it up, she saw a drawing under the table made by Kotori. She seemed to understand. It was a picture Kotori drew when she was young. This restaurant had grown up with Kotori. Tsumugi told them that Dad was the one who chopped ingredients, Kotori was the one who seasoned the food, and she herself was the one who made the menu, so she taped her hand-drawn menu onto the wall. At that moment, the food was almost done. Only one step remained: seasoning. Kotori carefully adjusted the flavor. After many tastings, she finally finished. Kouhei tasted it and said it was delicious. By then, Tsumugi's stomach was already growling loudly. She couldn't wait any longer. The three of them sat down and began to eat together. For Kouhei, this was the first truly delicious meal he and his daughter had shared since his wife passed away. It was also the first time he heard his daughter say, "It's so good." After dinner, Kouhei told Kotori they had to leave because his daughter needed to sleep soon. Just then, Tsumugi walked over to her drawing of the menu and said she wanted to eat hamburger steak again next time. Kotori looked a little disappointed. She wished she could eat with them again. Then Tsumugi suddenly told her that they would come again tomorrow to eat with her. Kouhei added that he was looking forward to eating together too. He felt truly happy, and most importantly, Tsumugi was even happier. Kotori's eyes filled with emotion. She stood up and bowed deeply to Kouhei. The next day at kindergarten, Tsumugi was using clay to make a hamburger steak for her dad. She lifted the clay and slammed it down, and the hamburger steak was done. Next, she needed a bowl and chopsticks, but she had already used up all the clay. A classmate saw this and gave her some of her own clay. Tsumugi was overjoyed. After school, Tsumugi was getting ready to go home, but a boy suddenly accused her of stealing someone else's clay. Even though the girl who gave the clay to Tsumugi tried to explain, the boy still refused to believe her and insisted she was a thief. He even said she was a wild child with no mom. Meanwhile, Kouhei was at work. When he received a call from Tsumugi's teacher, he rushed to the kindergarten immediately, but Tsumugi had wrapped her head inside a blanket. The boy's mother also arrived and made him apologize to Tsumugi, but Tsumugi refused to accept his apology. Seeing his daughter still upset, Kouhei carried her to the car. When they got home, he put her on the bed and gently told her there was no one else around. Tsumugi told her dad, feeling wronged, that the clay was given to her. She wasn't a thief. Kouhei said he would take her to buy more clay, so she could give it back to her classmates. His daughter nodded quietly. The next evening, they went to Kotori's restaurant. Kotori told Tsumugi they were going to make hamburger steak, but Tsumugi looked gloomy and didn't seem in the mood. Kouhei explained to Kotori that although Tsumugi had made up with the boy that morning, she still wasn't happy, so he wanted to make hamburger steak to cheer her up. And so Kouhei's task began. First, he had to chop onions into fine pieces. Kotori put a mask and goggles on him. Tsumugi laughed quietly on the side.
ちょっと笑ってますよ。
本当だ。
Kouhei raised the knife, but he had no idea how to mince an onion, so Kotori took out her mom's recipe book, which had drawings showing how to chop the onion properly. Following each step carefully, Kouhei finally managed to mince the onion. Then he placed the minced onions into the pan and cooked them until they turned translucent. After that, he mixed the cooked onions with the meat. Kouhei then asked his daughter if she could help knead the meat like she did with clay, but Tsumugi refused. She said she felt like she had done something bad. Kouhei hurried to assure her that what she didn't count as stealing, but Kotori tugged on Kouhei's sleeve, telling him to ask his daughter more seriously. Kouhei knelt beside his daughter and gently asked again. Tsumugi explained that she didn't steal the clay, but she had collected a lot of clay and didn't return any to her classmates. Hearing this, Kouhei held her small hand tightly and began comforting her. Finally, Tsumugi smiled again. Then the three of them started making the meat patties. Kotori told Tsumugi to smack the air out of the meat, so Tsumugi smacked the meat hard into her dad's hands. Next was pan-frying the patties. Then they placed the cooked patties into the miso broth. And finally, they topped it with a cute heart-shaped fried egg. The hamburger steak was finally ready. Tsumugi picked up her spoon and began eating. Her dad gently brushed her hair aside. Tsumugi chewed carefully. Suddenly, tears fell from her eyes. Each tear carried her hurt and frustration. She burst into sobs and threw herself into her father's arms. Her worries melted away with her tears. Then the three of them began eating together. Kotori asked Tsumugi what she wanted to make with all that clay. Tsumugi said she wanted to make a birthday present for her dad, because today was his birthday. Hearing that, Kouhei immediately checked his phone. Only then did he realize today really was his birthday, and his daughter had marked it on the calendar long ago. Children often bring their problems to their parents, but most parents don't listen patiently. Over time, children stop wanting to share their feelings with their parents. It's better to listen as a friend. Being both a parent and a friend, isn't that even better? This is a simple story, yet it carries the most touching kind of fatherly love. A father's love is never loud or dramatic. It hides in the determination to learn how to cook for you, in the gentleness of listening to your worries, and in the small details of remembering everything you like. It's these ordinary little moments that form the deepest protection, making the path of growing up less lonely, and turning simple days into something warm and full of light.